Hey friends, so before I get into it, let's just define what a non-alcoholic drink is. When I'm talking about non-alcoholic drinks, I mean alcohol-free beer and de-alcoholized beer, which is less than 0.5%, usually 0%. I also mean mocktails, one of which could be just like a cocktail with all the regular ingredients of a cocktail except for the alcohol. Mocktails could also mean like a cocktail, but except for the alcohol, it's a alcohol-free spirit that would still sort of have the taste of alcohol, even though there's 0% alcohol in it. I would also mean non-alcoholic wine, which is 0% alcohol. When I talk about non-alcoholic drinks, I do not mean low alcohol drinks, even though they do exist. So can you partake in non-alcoholic drinks? Some people can, some people can't. Some people who can't eventually can, and some people who can eventually can't. So where do you fall? So there are some people in recovery or people who are taking a break from drinking who are able to have non-alcoholic drinks with absolutely no issues. They're not triggered by the taste or the smell or the look of it. They can have them absolutely no problem. But then in other people, the look of the drink, the smell of it, or the taste of it can trigger cravings for the real thing, of course. And this trigger can happen to anybody, whether you're in recovery from an alcohol use disorder or you're just, taking a month off from drinking, or say you still drink, but you occasionally substitute non-alcoholic drinks for alcoholic drinks if you're trying to wean yourself off. Even then, people like that, they can be triggered by the smell, taste, and look of it. And remember, there are some non-alcoholic drinks, specifically non-alcoholic beer, that would have 0.5% or less. So yes, technically there's alcohol in it, but you wouldn't physically actually feel the effects of it unless you had a lot. But psychologically, you could feel the effects of it. So psychologically, because it smells and it tastes and it looks like a beer and there's only 0.5% in it, sure, you're not going to get drunk or even buzzed or even feel it, like in your body, actually feel it, but your mind can be extremely powerful, and your mind can be like, you're drinking a beer, and that could really mess with your head, And it would for me. I'm one of those people who cannot drink non-alcoholic drinks like that. Except I sort of can. I'll tell you that story near the end of this video. But non-alcoholic beer, I've never had one. Well, I did back when I would still drink. I tried one once, like as a funny joke. And I was like, oh yeah, it's disgusting. But I haven't had one since I got sober, and I don't think I ever will. It's just way too close to the real thing. But I've heard that non-alcoholic beers are actually pretty good nowadays. And I did do like a taste test of some popular non-alcoholic beer brands. I'll link the article below so you can read up on that if you're interested. So just because I'm not comfortable with having a lot of non-alcoholic drinks doesn't mean that everyone else shouldn't, just because it affects me a certain way. We're all very different. And I know from talking to lots of different people in recovery, I know there's a lot of people out there who actually attribute some of their sobriety success to non-alcoholic drinks. They aren't triggered by them at all, and they find them to be actually very helpful in their recovery. And that's very valid. Also, there are some people who actually miss the process of creating a fancy drink. Like the act of mixing flavors and, salting the rim and adding in herbs and things like that. Like they miss the process of that. So then when they get sober, they feel like they're missing out on making fancy drinks. Not necessarily the alcohol in it. They miss out on making fancy drinks. So de-alcoholized or alcohol-free spirits, like there's non-alcoholic gin and rum and things like that, since that product exists, then they can make fancy drinks again without the alcohol. So those products are really helpful for people like that, and they are not triggered by it. They find a lot of pleasure in making those drinks again. And that's very valid too. So I wouldn't suggest drinking non-alcoholic drinks if you think there's a chance that it could trigger you. If you're on the fence, I would say just don't do it. Just keep on holding out. And maybe eventually you'll feel like you'd be ready to try it. It sounds like it's putting a lot of thought into it, and it might be like, but I feel like you have to, especially when you're in recovery from an alcohol use disorder. You really have to You can't just willy-nilly just be like, sure, it's non-alcoholic and just go for it, because it could fuck with your head. So you realize that non-alcoholic drinks are okay with you. They don't trigger you. So are you doing it wrong if you drink those drinks? And I'm adding this part to this video because I get a lot of comments and DMs from people whenever I post on my business account, like a new product alert of, hey, this company now makes a non-alcoholic beer. Like, if you want to give it a shot, here it is. I get comments on those saying basically like anyone who drinks these, like they can't call themselves sober, and this is too much like the real thing. Like you're gonna relapse, and people DMing me saying, how dare you post this stuff for people in recovery? This looks like a bottle of gin and you're posting this? First off, yes, it does. And I understand that that can be triggering for some people to see. I totally get it because I was the exact same way for many years of being sober. Seeing like a bottle of, even though it was alcohol free, seeing the bottle and a drink with like a little mint leaf on it, like it was like, whoa, even though I know it's alcohol free, it could still be triggering. But I have no control over how things make you feel. You have control over how things make you feel. So once you find out, that an account like mine occasionally shares photos like that or shares products, saying, hey, here's this new non-alcoholic wine. Anyone wants to give it a shot? Maybe you don't have to follow that person, or you can just keep scrolling on that picture and don't comment on it, So this next little bit is for people who feel like non-alcoholic drinks in the hands of sober people is wrong. Humans are very diverse, extremely diverse. What works for one person may not work for another person. It might actually be the opposite. If something works for this person, that thing could like completely mess up another person, and vice versa. And our journeys are so very different in many ways of how we reach the point where we want to quit drinking. So after the point of wanting to quit drinking, and then our recovery is also going to look different. We're all very different people, even though at the heart, addiction, there's a lot of similarities between us, but we're all very different. So someone isn't doing it wrong if they like non-alcoholic drinks, just like someone who is triggered by them isn't overreacting. So don't let anyone try to shame you into thinking that you're doing your sobriety a disservice by enjoying these products. If these products help you, or if they don't bother you at all and you enjoy them. But a little word of warning, just be careful, just watch yourself, because they could be fine for you now and you might not be triggered by them now, but later on that could change. Or maybe a new product comes along where there's just a certain taste or a certain smell that really brings you back to a certain moment in time back in the day, and that could trigger you in a surprising way, So it's like you never know. Just be careful and pay attention if you find yourself maybe drinking more non-alcoholic drinks than you used to. If you're finding you're starting to drink them more for a reason that you might not even know yet, maybe explore that a little bit further, because there might be something there. So in conclusion, yes, you can partake in non-alcoholic drinks if they don't trigger you, and if you like them, continue. And if you find that you might be triggered by them, or they might make you anxious or feel a certain type of way, then don't drink them. And just know that that could change in the future. So just continue to be self-aware. And as I promised earlier, my little story about my experience with non-alcoholic drinks. Like I said, I never had non-alcoholic beer except once, like 10 years ago, and it was gross, and it was laughable to me at the time because I was still drinking. But one drink that I've missed, okay, I guess trigger warning, I'm going to talk about specific alcoholic drinks here but if you don't want to hear it, you can just end the video now. But if that wouldn't bother you to hear me talk about it, then you can continue. So one drink that I would miss, and I wouldn't miss being drunk, I would miss the taste, was rum and Coke, which is so weird because I always hated rum and Coke. Like, up until the last year of drinking, it was disgusting to me. But for some reason, I just ended up liking it eventually. So I missed that taste. But I was thinking there's no way, first, that there's a non-alcoholic like rum with 0% alcohol, because I will never have anything that has more than 0% alcohol. Even if it's 0.5%, I won't do it. First off, like, to even find one that would taste like rum, like, that would be impossible, I thought. And I thought, of course, it would be way too triggering for me. So it was around when I was 8 years sober, just past my 8-year sober birthday. And I was at a gas station of all places. They don't even carry this in the grocery store. There's a lot of good selections in the grocery stores here for non-alcoholic drinks, but this one particular drink, and I'm not sponsored at all, but I'll show like the video here of me tasting it for the first time. But I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. It's been 8 years. Because up until that point, I kept thinking, okay, I'm going to be triggered. It's going to be too much. But I was like, no, I think I'm ready. It took that long. So, and I tried it, and it was actually delicious, and it didn't trigger me at all. At all. And I still have that drink, I don't know, once every 2-3 weeks or so, as like a treat. And as a treat, I just mean it's like, because it's the taste. Obviously, there's 0%. There's nothing even close to alcohol in it. It's just like botanicals and, I don't know, cola taste. But for some reason, it's just so delicious to me. So it's a lovely treat. But all that to say is that it took me 8 years to finally feel like it wouldn't trigger me. And did I miss out on those 8 years? On not drinking this non-alcohol? No, who cares? To me, it didn't bother me that it was going to trigger me. So I just didn't. I just drank other things, But now that I know that particular one won't trigger me, then I know I can have it. Beer, I still know I'll never have non-alcoholic beer. Like, there's no way. That would be, I mean, who knows? Maybe at my 10-year, I'll try non-alcoholic beer and see how that goes. I don't know. But anyways, thank you for watching. Leave a comment below on your thoughts on non-alcoholic drinks. And remember, try not to be too judgy to other people in the comments. Because, we're all different. We're all humans. And just be nice to people. And remember, you can do hard things. You deserve happiness. And you are loved. Alcohol-free beer and de-alcoholic. So to answer the question of if you can have non-alcoholic drinks, really it's yes or no. Obviously. There's no maybes. Well, there is sort of maybes.